Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Foxfire Dispatch, where we bring Southern politics down to earth and center the voices fighting for a better future in our communities. I'm Liz Purvis, and we are knee deep into that particular flavor of North Carolina August with humidity that is just about thick enough to chew, tree frogs and cicadas so loud in my backyard. Oh my God. And the legislative season is somehow both wrapped up and basically entirely unproductive at the same time. Today, I've got Imani McCreary in the house, Durham born, New York City tempered, and Carolina seasoned, as her bio says. She is a recovering corporate escapee, born and raised Southern Democrat, and a woman with hair that I would pay for and do. We are doing this whole redhead solidarity episode today, and I regret nothing. So grab your coffee and your sweet tea, and also probably a Vox fan because this is North Carolina and you're going to need one. Settle in. This is the Foxfire Dispatch. Hey, Imani, are you there? Or did I lose you?
Okay, I lost you, and then I'm closing all my browsers, basically. Can you hear me now?
I heard something about a browser. Also, it's totally fine. Well, anyway, hey, Imani, how are you
Hi.
doing?
I'm good. How are you doing? I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's one of those weeks where I am just so glad that it is Friday. And I want to ask, where is your head right now with everything that we have going on in Raleigh?
Yeah, I think right now it's all eyes on the state and kind of what basically they're willing to do and not do to rig the system. Right now we've got a deliberate effort to bend every single rule, it kind of feels like. And it kind of hits in every single county in different areas. And I just think right now that leads to a lot of things that will be investigated, I believe, in a lot of years. And we're kind of in living history currently.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. I know that Mark Elias's law firm has been interested in the things that are going on in our boards of elections with our early voting sites, particularly with disclosures around the different colleges across North Carolina. Yeah, no, it's been a wild week politically in North Carolina. So what's the temperature like in Durham in the politics way and not in
Yeah.
the heat
Yeah.
index way?
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Well, it's August, but I think right now the temperature in Durham is wide awake, or it needs to be. Because here's the bottom line. Durham is one of the most politically engaged cities in the South, and they have gerrymandered us into kind of what I like to call Ramsay in the Game of Thrones. We're being squished, and we're all trying to figure out how to navigate this world. And if we seriously kind of want to stop being squashed by Ramsay, we have to deliver in November a very strong message.
I hear that. I mean, I think that both across
Not
Durham.
not to compare everyone to murderers, but if the shoe fit.
Oh man,
Sorry.
I am not up on like the current whatever the House of Dragons, the new Game of Thrones situation, but the original was certainly a time in culture and politics.
It was. And I think, using pop culture references is one of my favorite things because I think it's something everyone can connect on and everyone can kind of understand the emotional dynamic. And that kind of pop culture moment was something we all lived through.
Yeah, for sure. Um, okay, so today we're doing kind of a smorgasbord of news updates plus a little of the culture and fun, the sugar with your vegetables. But our political updates, at least where North Carolina is involved, include that our state budget is officially law. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. The North Carolina General Assembly's 2026 session has already adjourned after they signed that budget. Basically, the only productive thing they did, and even that is a wash in some ways. Also, the North Carolina State Board of Elections met yesterday in a marathon, just about 12-hour session that ultimately slashed a lot of early voting Sundays. We'll also talk about what happened relative to my local county with that State Board of Elections. And then finally, mark your calendar. We are 75 days out as of this recording from the general election, which is Tuesday, November 3rd. So be sure to check your registration and your sample ballot at ncsbe.gov. So this is the check-in, where things are standing in Raleigh, where things stand in Washington. We'll get to in a little bit. And these are things that we are bracing for and organizing for. First things up, NCSBE. Oh my God, Imani, I know you were like tuned in virtually. I was tuned in a little bit virtually, a little bit actually in person in Raleigh yesterday. What are your top line thoughts or the most
Yeah.
outrageous things you saw yesterday? Because there was quite a bunch.
I mean, I think, what we have seen overall is them willing to get down and dirty and really target where the sites are, what they're cutting back based on, basically based on who their voters are that they think will show up. They are audience targeting voter sites. That is actually not something you're supposed to be able to do. This is supposed to be a system that works for all, regardless of party affiliation. And I think right now, what I'm currently very fearful of is they're just doing it in public. I mean, they're literally texting people in meetings. It's it's unprecedented, and it's batshit. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the wildest things that I witnessed yesterday was Republicans basically saying that the Calais Supreme Court decision made this, well, we weren't going to do this, but Calais made this possible. Basically, like, oh, we found a way to make like the discrimination is legal in this particular way. So that's how we're gonna act and move. And I thought it was wild that this meeting started with the Republican chair of the state board saying, I hope we never hear the name Dallas Woodhouse again. Like, sir? Of course, this is gonna come up. This man was interfering in all of these early voting plans.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you raise a great point in that there's so much individual occurrences, right? That are individually very disturbing. The Dallas Woodhouse stuff, the targeting of various neighborhoods, the college campus restrictions. And then there's an overall kind of pattern of them just abusing administrative power. And so I like to kind of think of both of those things in context, and really I'm pretty concerned about where our election system is right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you are tuned into this, it's really hard not to be. I know here in Granville County where I live, like we're really focused on trying to make this too big to rig. So our aim is to really to increase turnout such that we combat the voter suppression, the confusion with our early voting sites with an increase in turnout that makes sure that the people's voice is like appropriately heard. Um, that said, Granville's a place with abnormally high turnout across the state. We had about 80% turnout in 2024. That's not every county. And so like the work to get out the vote and like the amount of work it takes, it really varies. And as these election boards make it harder for folks to cast a ballot, it becomes like there's a cost. There's a time cost and there's a dollar cost to making sure people are able to get out and vote. And it's not like paying people to vote. It's the sweat equity and the time equity to do the get out the vote work.
Yeah, I mean, and I think every race up and down the ballot is our individual chance to deliver a message and really show up, right? And also pay tribute to the work that's being done here by you, by others in this state, literally on the ground, blood, sweat, and tears. And I think what I really want people to take away is that this November is a chance to kind of give tribute to all of the organizers and the history that came before us.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good opportunity, and it's a good opportunity to build on the year-round organizing that has been present now, like, going on for years here in North Carolina, at least for the Democrats.
Absolutely.
So, don't want to beat a dead horse about the Board of Elections stuff. I know that it's something I will probably continue to yap about as we publicize all the early voting locations in Granville. But let's move on a little bit to the budget, to this thing that finally passed, like what's in it and what it costs us to get to a budget after more than 2 years without one. Right? So we have this new state budget. Governor Stein signed it on July 7th. It's a $34.4 billion plan. But also because it's so delayed, it's 2 years of stopgaps, basically. I think it is worth highlighting, like most of our teachers in North Carolina, a whole lot of them are working 2 and 3 jobs. And if you are living paycheck to paycheck, if you are in a situation where you work multiple jobs to make things work, like that incremental raise that they got now, that little bit of back pay, it's like not gonna begin to undo the hole that people who are working paycheck to paycheck are dug into. It's also really worth highlighting, like, this is an average 8% pay raise for these teachers who haven't had a raise in 2 years, which means for on average 4% a year, which when inflation is 3%, again, this is barely a raise at all. And so even though it is the biggest overall teacher raise in 20 years, like, honestly, in North Carolina, that is a travesty because this is not near enough. And I don't know about you, but like everybody I know who went to school to be a teacher 12 years out of college is not a teacher anymore. And it's so dumb, right? Like we are seeing things like Mayor Mamdani in New York, who like people are filming potholes coming back the next day, and he's like solved the potholes. And they're paying people living wages to do things in the city, like shovel snow when it needs to be shoveled. Like I just think we're starting to see politicians really show us that there are real fast solutions to things.
Oh no, can you
Oh,
hear
I
me?
can. There were two of you for a minute.
Oh,
Oh
sorry.
my god, it's so fine. It's so fine. Um, I was just yapping about Mayor Zoran Mamdani and the way that like he's fixing things quickly, whether it's potholes, whether it's like seasonal shit like snow that needs to be shoveled. Like we're seeing a
Yeah.
politician in a major metropolitan city with real volume and like issues of scale solve problems quickly. And I just like we can't do it. It's just not sufficient, you know?
I think it was sufficient 20 years ago. It is not even in the realm of sufficient in 2024. And my dog agrees, by the way. So
We gotta have a
he loves
dog appearance
Mondani.
at some point, you know?
You're well. You're well. But I think in general, what I really appreciate about Mondani is his ability to simplify operations and communication and really reach across all the different bubbles. I think it's a fantastic strategy and it's brilliant and really just cutting the red tape of going directly to the source. It's an amazing concept. I love it. We love to see it.
We love to see it. More of that, please, for sure. So, other things that are included in this budget, a 3% raise for all state employees, which, again, when you consider the rising cost of living, this is like not scratching the surface of sufficient. We have seen a personal income tax rate drop a little bit, but people are really minimally going to feel that, and our services from the state, we're going to pay the price in the services that we get. Um, Medicaid, my notes say Medicaid is fully funded, but like my spidey senses are tingling that like something is up with that, and I have not fully done my due diligence there. Is that like ringing any bells for you?
I just talked to a friend that said it is now in her work, but I have not confirmed that directly. That being said, I think fully funded is a question of what is fully funded. And does that just continue the legacy, or does that actually build on what Cooper already did?
Yeah, yeah, and then there was 700 million appropriated for Hurricane Helene relief in Western North Carolina, but again, people have been waiting on that money for 2 years, basically, and it's, like, still, again, not sufficient.
I have a lot to say on this because I mean, I think a lot of us actually have watched hurricanes decimate the eastern part of North Carolina with Hurricane Matthew, the western part of North Carolina with Hurricane Helene, and then a lot of us were here in the 90s with Hurricane Fran in the Piedmont. And I think that we have a lot of thinking to do on climate change and what that means for this state and how we want our representatives to fight for us.
100%, 100%. The scale of the devastation and the lack of recovery from Helene is still staggering, and I feel like just as I know that to be true, I also feel like things, like, have stories have bubbled to the surface of those in Eastern North Carolina impacted from older storms that have also still not, like, been made whole.
Yeah, I mean, I know people that lost their childhood homes and then private equity just kind of swooped in. And it's just I think as someone that is living in their childhood home and kind of trying to create this multi-generational fight against Ronald Reagan and Jesse Helms, I feel for people, and I think that our state has been battered, and we really need to kind of come together and figure out how to make it work for us in this new world of climate change.
Yeah, for real, and part of that starts with, the commissioner of insurance. Is it really called commissioner of insurance, or
That
did I
dude.
make that up? There's somebody who manages insurance at the, like, state level, and it's a Republican.
Oh no, it is. I can look at my Instagram right now.
Because
It
this,
is
like,
absolutely
yeah,
yes,
it's a
the commissioner of insurance.
oh, okay, it is. Okay, that sounds like a fake title. Like, I really did think I made that up. No, it came from somewhere in my
No,
brain.
no.
Um, this
Um,
person,
yeah,
like, Mike Causey is a big part of the reason, like, insurance rates are so high here. So, like, you're pouring money into yeah, they're just again, there are fixes. There are, like, solutions. It starts with electing Democrats in a lot of ways, but
it starts, I think it starts really with fixing our systems. And I think there's some questions on our checks and balances of councils of state, which is kind of what the commissioner of insurance sits on with all the commissioner of labor and kind of all the others. And then making sure people understand that these actual positions affect our daily lives in ways that affect our money in our daily life.
absolutely. And this budget, like, will affect people's daily life. It eliminated more than 1,000 state government positions. The people who lost those jobs are certainly gonna feel it. Their families are certainly gonna feel that. There are also provisions in this budget that shifted power away from the executive branch, and in helping us ensure that we had a budget to function like Stein, we had to give those things away. There are also provisions that target and constrain our local governments, which is always very funny coming from Republicans who, growing up, I was told they were the party of small government who wanted to leave everything to the locals. But apparently not when those locals are blue.
Yeah, it's absolutely funny how states' rights have become such a rallying cry for Democrats instead of Republicans. And now they're the ones that are completely on federal overreach. I think, this budget is a yes and, right? It's a win that we got it. It's a win that we got this passed just for survival mode purposes. But I also think that there is a lot of power grabs. I mean, I think someone's HOA got paid $300,000. Like, why are we paying an HOA in a budget? I have questions on why that's allowed. Um, again, as a person who's just diving back into this world, it's like I really want to sit down and interview lawyers for 3 days on on the checks and balances of the current state right now. But I can't. So it's really about talking to people and getting the message out there that we deserve better.
Yeah, no, I think so. What does it mean for like the families in your community in Durham that this took 2 years to pass this budget? What did this wait cost those people?
Yeah, I mean, I think Durham Durham has been in a bubble too long and we've been too squeezed, and that really does a lot of damage in ways that it makes my heart break. My schools, my schools still have trailers. They're next to houses that cost millions. Why? Um, literally the trailers that they put in Jordan High during my school year in 2004 are still there. And that's not the effect of our city. That's just a complete effect of our state legislature. And year after year, having to strip away budgeting, and that compounded interest of basically just decreasing services across the board.
Yeah,
So
no,
I think my message here to Durham, honestly, is that we have to remember to keep our eye on the ball of like who our real fight is against right now, and that is the overreach powers of the General Assembly.
that definitely makes sense to me. But as somebody who's got an audience that's largely younger and online, like how are
Yes.
you working to explain the budget in a way that doesn't totally cause the eyes to like glaze over? Because this is
Yeah.
consequential, but 634 pages is also boring
Yeah.
AF.
I gave up. I'm going to be honest. I think there's a little bit of a way where I didn't even reach the 634 pages. So there's a level in which I appreciate local journalism for its unbiased take and its standards of being,
Mhm.
Um, but I think as someone, well, there's a lot to say on this and I could go for hours. So let's start with the beginning. We do not live in a monocultural world anymore. And we really need to start recognizing that right now. I'm specifically targeting millennials. I think there are groups targeting Gen Z. There are groups targeting, different bubbles. But I'm targeting millennials because everyone likes to say we're impossible. And I'm sorry, we're not. It's just facts. We're just the research generation that's hard to pin down. And so my approach is to market to the audience. There's no kind of one size fits all here, but for my current demo, I think the answer is the truth, the knife cut truth that, one of your representatives gave $300,000 to their HOA. Do you feel that represents you? The budget is your teacher's paycheck, your parents' healthcare support. The Board of Elections decides whether your campus has a polling site or you're walking 2 miles down a highway. Like, that's not abstract. And if you're not paying attention to it, someone else is. And the question here is, who do you think has your best interests at heart? Who will pick up the phone when you're in trouble? And can we honestly break the fantasy that we have any power in this and direct the anger at the right problem?
Yeah, I think those are good questions to ask. Well, I am certainly looking at electeds, and working to make sure the electeds are in office who, excuse me, I know are going to work for my like best interest, not because I am begging them and calling them every day to do the right thing, but because that's where their internal compass is leading them in terms of policy and in terms of like making people's lives better. And I would like genuinely humbly suggest that like regardless of political party, but I think you will see it falls along certain lines in large patterns. But regardless of political party, if your local electeds do not care to improve the lives of the people who elect them, like find better people to run.
Amen. Amen. I think, that's the bottom line. I think people like to say democracy is participation. I like to say, do we have to participate this much though? You know,
Truly, like I
uh,
genuinely do believe that if you have to if you have to hold your elected's feet to the fire, like, it's time to find somebody better.
You know, I was told when I was born I should be three things. No tattoos. Sorry, that didn't work out. Red Sox fan. That definitely worked out. And a Democrat. I was born a Democrat. I come from a family that were Democrats in Republican areas. That is just like ingrained in my being. But I don't, you know, associate political party with policy points. My whole being is do the best, do the most good for the most amount of people and pay your fair share of taxes. That's my belief.
Very close to the Wesleyan, do the most good you can for the most people you can as quickly as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I like that one. Let's tag that one. I like that.
Yeah, John Wesley, the Methodist. They did something right.
Absolutely thought you meant Leslie Nope there.
No, Liz Warren had quoted that was like she grew
My
up in the
bad.
Methodist tradition.
Yeah.
And that's the ethos.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I went pop culture. But valid. Valid either.
I went high school church child.
I get it. I appreciate you so much.
Okay, this has been a fun and entertaining and engaging, let's say, wrap up of some North Carolina shit, if not always pleasant. That North Carolina General Assembly has adjourned, so they're not going to be back until November, but that doesn't mean you don't have to call their offices. It's still a good time to call your rep to let them know that they should uphold Stein's veto because the governor just vetoed House Bill 958, which was a terrible elections law that Republicans rammed through on party lines recently. And so, even though they're not in session, it's a great time to flood their inboxes and let them know that you don't want them to make it harder for people to vote.
Yes. And I also think, it's a good time to do that now because November will be a very interesting session because it will be after the election and we don't know what they're going to try. So letting your officials know you're watching them now is a great idea.
Yep. And the same pretty much holds through for Congress when Congress is or is not in session. And 2026 has already seen 2 federal government shutdowns, and both were rooted in fights over immigration enforcement. There was a 4-day shutdown at the end of January, and then a much longer one from February 14th to April 30th. Now, the funding deal that ended the second shutdown keeps the government running through the end of next month, September 30th. But that also means we might be gearing up for a shutdown, or at the very least a deadline that is like right before the November elections. What are you thinking as we approach that, as the Iran war continues to impact gas prices and people's lives? I mean, I can't get over what's going on the USS Lincoln personally.
I think our service members overall deserve a much better standard of care than they got 10 years ago, let alone right now. Straight up. Overall, I think Washington affects all of us on the individual level, and the fights just keep on coming. And I just got out of the working in the kind of energy electric vehicle charging industry, and it's just what I've found is keeping your eye on all of it is absolutely impossible. So find great people that specialize in different areas and pick a baseball field and really go at trying to figure out what's going on and getting involved.
Yeah, no, I mean, picking a lane is not a bad way to tackle this. Like if you pull yourself in too many directions, you can get stretched too thin, you can get overwhelmed, or you're just not as effective because you're not tackling things with singular purpose and resolve. So it's okay to dive deep into one area that really matters to you. These federal funding fights touch things in our state like Medicaid administration, like SNAP, like disaster relief. They really affect our military families around whatever Fort Bragg is actually fucking called now, and Lejeune, I'm just thinking of our friends in like one of our girls' signal chats who are involved in military family stuff and whose husbands are active duty and things like that. Like it just it affects so much.
Yeah. I think it really we need to show up in November. We need to pay attention. And I don't know if people here kind of pay attention to the influencing world, but they tell a lot of people to niche down. What I'm telling people in organizing, at least on the individual level, is like niche down your passions in organizing and what you want to talk to your government officials about. Be that local influencer for what you're passionate about. Because and then find others that are in different areas. We don't have to be experts in everything. We just have to have enough players in the game.
Yeah, because there's a bunch that is going to be on the table in the November ballot. Like, yeah, not the presidency, but a lot of other shit. And
Yes. Let's say impeachment is on the table at some point, right? Would we not want a senator on the table that we know can deliver the truth and understand the truth? And I think that's a great question for all of us.
yeah, I mean, and I think it's fair to say we don't have that in Senator Tom Tillis, who is retiring. Also, I will just say, like, from conversations I'm having, not just with Democrats in North Carolina, but with Republicans and independents here and Democrats nationally, like, folks are largely seeing Roy Cooper running as a a hopeful, knock on wood, likely pickup potentially for the Democrats in the Senate. Now that doesn't mean we don't need to work for this. We for sure need to work for this. Uh, but it's also okay to work for that Senate seat by focusing on local races because what we know is that folks who go to the polls for down ballot races fill out all of the ballot from the bottom of the ballot up. And so, to the extent that you can plug in for your local state legislative races, your county commission races, your sheriff's races, your district attorney's races, all kinds of local races that are up this year, to the extent that you can plug in for them, it will ripple out and have a multiplied effect.
I think that's a great point. And I think if people are really, short on time and want kind of an ROI, getting involved in your county party, and really at the local level is so important. And I just, my dad was an organizer and a strategist. And I think the phrase he uses is the closest person the project knows best. And that tends to be at the local level. That's what I believe. And I think that if you want, to know that your $10 is going the longest, down ballot races is where it's at, man.
For sure, for sure. And like while the early polling has Cooper ahead by several points, it's really important to say that like ahead in the polls is not the same as winning in November. Those are two different things, and everybody in this state ought to know it.
Yeah, it's a weather report. It's what it's like you say it's 80% chance of rain. Okay, but does that actually mean that will happen for sure? Absolutely not. The clouds have to come. The work has to be done. So keep a charge of kind of your actions. I think we get in a really powerless place. And I think it's really important to not just sit there and kind of get mad, but also use that as fuel for actions within your community.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I think it's worth highlighting some of the federal races that we have going on in North Carolina. I know I am biased, but NC 1 and NC 13 are really important to me because that's what's in my county. NC 1 is currently held by Democrat Don Davis. We really need to hold this seat. Don Davis is a moderate Democrat. He doesn't always take votes I agree with, but he supports his county parties. He is present and shows up, and he is genuinely willing to listen to people who don't always agree with him. And he is way better than the Republican who is running against him. So it's really important that we hold that seat. I'm really hopeful that we do, even though Republicans in our legislature gerrymandered his house out of this fucking district to try to make it so that he couldn't run. NC-13 is the
So this is a great example. I think a Black man has held this seat since 1992, I believe. And the organizers have done a lot of work in this area, and the Republicans have just hacked at it for the past 30 years. And that's not okay. And I think this is one where I mean that I'm voting and I am working on this campaign because of to honor the people that came behind us and for the people that will come after us.
Yeah, I mean, this is simply like it's too important. We cannot lose.
It's too important.
And same with like Foushie's seat. Foushie, Alma Adams, Deborah Ross. There are other 3 Democrats in Congress right now. We cannot afford to lose those seats. We also have a very real chance at picking up a couple in NC-13 with Paul Berenger, who is running a hella respectable race, and NC-11 with Jamie Ager, who is getting some well-deserved national attention, I think, like with Crooked Media's Long Play podcast that came out recently. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you feel like we have a shot at these seats? If you thought we were gonna win one, which would you think? I'm so curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, okay. Jamie's a farmer, homegrown in a way that is true to North Carolina's story, and I think that is such a special race, and I really want to support it. Same thing with Dawn Davis. We kind of already talked about that. Foushie helped integrate this area during Brown v. Board. I think that's important to talk about. I think it's important for Durham to come together. We've been known to fight, and I think the message here is I really think let's come together and remember that the Republicans' overreach is the problem, and none of us can win without kind of checking and balancing that. Paul Berenger, as you said, is great, and I think I know less about that, but I feel pretty good about it, to be honest, which is why I know less about it. And I'm excited to see kind of the different areas, because I think this is kind of a great cultural awakening for politics right now.
Yeah. I mean, Paul Berenger, also a moderate Democrat, used to be a Republican pretty recently in his history, but by the beginning of Donald Trump's second administration, he said, I don't recognize this party, and I would rather be with the opposition to this party. And he flipped early last spring and started making calls to county party chairs to introduce himself and say, hey, I'm thinking about running. What do you think? And what criticism do you have for me? And really dug in and started putting in the work, because his district is huge. It's like 11 or 12 different counties have part of NC-13. Like, it's very large, and it looks like a salamander. It's like a quintessentially gerrymandered district. But yeah, like I would say he's
the salamander one.
Yeah.
Okay. That I know them by their animals.
But yeah, I think he's got an enormous chance of helping us get out the vote across this district for Democrats, because he's a good candidate, really. And then we've got judges. We've got 4 statewide judicial races in the Supreme Court with Justice Anita Earls, and then our 3 Court of Appeals judges John Arrowood, Toby Hampson, and Christine Walczyk, who we are gonna name drop a lot over the next couple months, because it's really important that everybody know their names and know that they're the Democrats, so that we bubble in their names and don't lose by 401 votes or some shit.
Yes. I mean, I think number one, courts are number one. That's how we bring democracy back to North Carolina. We have to memorize all the names. So if you need some mnemonic devices, I've thought of some. Obviously, there's hot girls for earls. There's also pearls for earls, depending on your gender preferences. There is John Arrowood. Just remember, like Robin Hood, okay? Shoots an arrow. Hampson. Haven't thought of there yet, nor Christine, but I will get there. I just think it's very important that not to not underestimate these down ballot races and to really kind of memorize their names completely.
Yeah, like I can't emphasize enough because I genuinely like I didn't know about the courts of appeals. I haven't often kept that knowledge in my brain, but we should all know there are 15 judges on the North Carolina Court of Appeals, and all 3 Democrats are up this year. There are 12 not
Yeah.
Democrats on this court and only 3 Democrats. And if we don't put all 3 of those Democrats back on this court, that means your chances, if you ever have something appealed to this appellate court, of getting any non-conservative viewpoint from the people who hear your case are really, really rare. So just like think about the kind of generosity of spirit that you might want in your judges, and whether you think that it has a D or an R beside its name as you seek to remember these people.
Yes. Also, I mean, if you just think about it, asking people to vote for 3 out of 15 is actually, the least we could do.
It's also a very
ideally,
important part of the like path to 2030, just to project a couple years out. Like, we gotta do this first, you guys.
I've literally been telling high school friends I'll move if they don't vote for these people. So let's just remember courts are important. Remember all the names down and up the ballot, regardless of whether you know what they do or not.
For sure. For sure. We will hit in another episode. There are also going to be some constitutional amendments on the ballot. They are basically always written in a shitty way, and I haven't done my due diligence yet to parse out the truth of these things so that I know why I'm telling you to vote the way I think you should vote. But we'll get up on that on a different episode for sure. Yeah,
For sure. I think the real answer is vote no, because the Republicans are trying to play tricks on you, but we'll circle back with those tricks later.
yes, thank you. I was like, I didn't even know. I was like, I know. It's like yes to all or no to all, but which is it? And why? More on that soon. So we had like a sales tax amendment that went on our primary ballot in Granville from our county commissioners that was going to do like a small like 0.25% sales tax increase. But like one of our local Democratic volunteers was like, I really care about this and I would like to do a presentation at the meeting about like why I think this is bad and we shouldn't vote for this. And he explained to us like not only did our county commission have a multi-million-dollar budget surplus and therefore this isn't needed, but he also brought up like if they wanted our opinion, they wouldn't have thrown this on the primary. They'd have put this on the general. And like there are other things too, like sales taxes are regressive, and so they impact the poorest among us the most. And so for all of those reasons, we were able to tell like the Granville Democrats that we didn't think that we should vote for this, and it was defeated like by 82%.
Amazing. I mean,
so we can do it.
We can do it. We really can. I think we just need to all go back to Microsoft Paint and maybe a little bit of PowerPoint circa 1998, and then give a presentation on
it. So thinking back, just a little throwback into the Microsoft Paint era of it all. And also thinking about like you're a Durham OG, right? What is it like to be a child of the online, as it were, and also like a recognizable Durham face online while you're doing this work?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a Durham OG, born and raised, and to some extent that means even as a kid, I was a recognizable Durham face. So this isn't new. I think what is new is this platform, and honestly, building this right now feels kind of like the first time in my life I get to tell my story, my life, give people real insight into my work personality, since it's kind of been always on the corporate side. So it's a little bit like MTV True Life, except it's MTV True Life. I'm a redhead doing political marketing on social media in the South. And nobody pitched that show. So I think overall, what I would say is my log line is this is a multi-generational fight against Ronald Reagan, Jesse Helms, and the Confederacy itself. And that is a very careful line to walk. And I take great care in that.
Word. Yeah, I love that. And I love also, like, I think it's cool doing this with you in that we both have very different perspectives on like North Carolina as our home, and that like you very much have had this anchor in Durham your whole life, and like my childhood was a little more itinerant through the South, but like my mom's hometown was Newton, North Carolina, and so we've kind of moved back there, and I've kind of lived up and down I-40 for most of my adult life. And it's just interesting to think about the different ways that the home of all of this has shaped us.
Yeah, I mean, I like to joke that North Carolina raised me, but I was also I'm a millennial kind of raised in the Lindsay Lohan era. So there hasn't been much that hasn't been DM'd to me at this point. And I think the internet is always there. It's not reality. And the noise will always come. And I've kind of made my peace with that. But as long as you kind of wear grace like armor and hellfire like a crown, I'm down with it, you know?
Hell yeah. Um, how about misinformation? Let's talk about that for a minute. How is that moving differently when it is like aimed at your town versus like aimed at an issue?
Yeah, I want to be careful how I approach this because we can't flatten the argument here. There's two different categories, right? There's deliberate misinformation that's just straight up falsehood. And then there's ongoing developing situations. And, I think the former I'll fight with truths. I call them my knife cut truths. It's really hard to fight facts. So that's kind of where I head in the misinformation space. The latter, I think we're all kind of adjusting to the fact that we live in an agile news world. And what that means is that we can't always use traditional methods because it doesn't work. There is history, there is trauma. To live in the South is to inherit history and to live among it. And to ignore that, to deny it is not reality. We're living in history and this current moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's like continually something that we have to wrestle with. Like I have been thinking a lot this summer about how we do messaging, how we approach rhetoric when like it fundamentally feels like some people are living in a different version of reality.
Yeah.
Like I'm not really sure how we reach those people still, but I also think there are like a lot of people in the gettable category who aren't like wholly in a different reality yet. And maybe that's, you know, that's my work. That's more my work anyway than the like getting the people in that completely different reality.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think radical acceptance of the current times is the space that we're in and we need to operate in. And then it's really just about meeting people in your current reality and giving bids of connections to others and seeing how we can kind of cross pollinate across bubbles because that's what we're in. We're in language bubbles right now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. So like to recap a little bit. So we've talked about the budget. We've talked about a little bit about the voter suppression fight. We do not want to live in organizing bubbles and silos. Like we want to get out of them where we can, and also just like fight the fatigue of the fire hose that can be the news in North Carolina and also just like across the country right now. Um, the work is gonna be there. And we really, really really need folks with us doing this work in September and October. So do whatever you need to do in the next days to like gear up and recharge. And please, dear God, come help us win some seats this November.
Yeah. Hey, and listen, I know I'm a Durham OG and that's kind of my realm of being. But if you know someone with my phone number and you have questions about the election, feel free to text me. That offers out there. I'm not gonna put my phone number on the internet, but if you know someone, you know how to get it. So let's talk.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. If you know how to find the money, you know how to find the money. Okay, so throwing it over to our gaslight gatekeep government style section, I wanted to drill down just a wee bit on what happened with the Granville County Board of Elections relative to the State Board of Elections of the Auditor's Office.
Yeah, you want to tell the story?
So, yesterday around 7 o'clock, the State Board of Elections heard Granville's case, and our minority and a majority on the Board of Elections submitted their plan. Well, the majority and the minority were supposed to submit their plans, except all the scuzzy little Republicans apparently got some sort of fucking memo from the State Board, the Auditor's Office, Dallas Woodhouse. It's unclear, but they got a memo and they all decided to be cowards and not show up. So the Democrats and the director of the board showed up to do their job and represent the minority position and the majority in absentia. And I'm so worked up about this. And the state board, in their magnanimity and generosity, decided that there would be a middle road plan. You know, even though it was only the minority plan that could come and present their case, they thought we really needed to lose our most used polling site in Oxford. So they gave us a fourth site, and we're grateful for that because we had three. And we were able to save one of our most used sites, but the most used voting site in Oxford, they moved 5 miles down the road, made it completely unwalkable. So, basically, if you're a working class person in Oxford who like doesn't have reliable car transportation, casting your ballot got a lot harder, except local community groups and Democrats are going to do everything we can to make sure that people have some rides to the polls.
Yeah, I think this a great example of what I mean by they're just trying to disenfranchise everyone at every possible opportunity, because I truly believe a dying donkey kicks the hardest, even though they're the elephant side, just for the record. But I think it's a great example, and we really need to kind of get involved as much as possible and niche down our organizing. So get involved with your county party, y'all.
It's really amazing what like basically a handful of dedicated people can do in a county party to transform it. Truly, the world's your oyster.
Truly.
So
I mean, God bless redheads too.
I mean, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Coming soon, the Spider-Man meme featuring Liz, Imani, and Angie Thornton, chair of Vance County. We have to make time for that.
We do.
So rounding it out with a little bit of a call to action, please remember to check your voter registration. You may have gotten redistricted, like your congressional map could have changed. So check your voter registration. It's the voter search at ncsbe.gov. It's super easy. Remember that the general election is Tuesday, November 3rd, and early voting starts on October 15th and runs through October 31st. So there are plenty of opportunities to go vote. You can look up your sample ballot, text 3 friends about a Senate race or congressional race or House legislative race that works for you. and volunteer. Pick a shift for a candidate you believe in and knock a door, phone bank, write some postcards to your neighbors, do something.
I will just emphasize this. I think the best antidote in this world is to volunteer and to talk to people. It's really great to kind of talk to different people across the state and to know what they care about. And I really think that listening and extending our circles is the way to go.
Absolutely. So when you go to the polls, bring a first time voter or a friend who maybe wouldn't remember unless you reminded them and got ice cream afterwards or something. We do not get to opt out of democracy just because it's inconvenient or the lines are a little bit longer this year or because it's August or because Washington keeps kicking some can to a deadline 3 days before the election. Folks who are writing these laws are counting on your exhaustion, so don't give it to them. Thanks for joining us for
And
this
here's
episode of the Foxfire Dispatch. Yes, and you need a plug. I did not write this in here, but plug where people can follow
no,
you.
but here's my plug. If you have the privilege of time to vote and all of these things don't make your life harder, vote early and get it done and help other people.
Heck, yeah. Where can people find you on Threads, Insta, all the things?
Imani McCreary, or no, sorry, at Imani McCreary. Just saying. We
know how the
went
internet
very,
works.
this is MTV True Life. Yeah, and you think you know, but you have no idea.
So thanks for joining us. This has been a really fun double redheaded episode of the Foxfire Dispatch. If today's conversation lit a spark, share it with somebody who thinks that the midterms don't matter. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky, X, and TikTok, I guess. Also subscribe, send us your questions. We would be especially thrilled if you subscribed on YouTube. Our music is produced by John Fitz. The Foxfire Dispatch is written and executive produced by me, Liz Purvis. So until next time, remember that we are who we're waiting for.
Now get in some good trouble.
Ooh. First Imani and Liz episode.
It's time to rise and start a new day. Time to rise and start a new day. It's time to rise and start a new day. Time to rise and start a new day.